think Deanna's coming to talk to
Sorry,
you
I had
today.
a phone call that went long. What's that?
I think WCZN is coming to talk to you specifically.
Thursday.
Okay. I just got done talking to them.
Okay. I didn't know if there was something else then.
No,
Yeah.
I
Thursday's
was trying to like tell them about things at each restaurant that people should get. I talked about your Brussels sprouts and your cinnamon rolls.
Cool. Yeah, I think they've been doing a community thing, so.
Yeah, I
You did
I
not
just
call the meeting
spent,
to order yet?
I just spent an hour and a half.
All right. I apologize for being tardy. Where's our
It's
agenda?
okay, you're here,
But you want paper or?
which is a big improvement over last
I don't know. I just got lucky.
All right, I will call this tardy meeting to order at 12:04. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yep. Roll call for attendance, Ms. Arp.
Here.
Mr. Byer. Here, Mr. Byer. Okay, Ms. Ensley,
Yes.
Ms. Conley,
Here,
welcome.
thank you.
Ms. Holland,
Here.
Ms. Powell.
Yeah, here.
Mr. Ringler apologizes for being tardy. Mr. Vriesinga here, and Mr. Wilks.
Here.
Thank you. And we will open up public comments. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items, we allow a maximum of 4 minutes to address their concern. This is the only time during the meeting that citizens will be allowed to address the DDA. Please state your name and address for the record if you would like. We actually have people here. Anybody?
Oh, she looks like she's got some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on up and introduce yourselves and say hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Claudia Selick and my husband Jerry Selick, and we are new to the area, although not truly new because I graduated from Cedar and was raised here all my life. So I've come full circle and lived off of Beach Street and decided that this is the place we wanted to locate for my photography business. Although we were recently retired, we said it's not for us. We don't do well with retirement. And so we decided, let's start up business. So that is why we're here today and we're so thrilled. My heart is happy. I feel like I'm back home. I feel like the attitude of Cedar Springs is such a blessing. I cried, and I'm still crying for days just because the spirit of Cedar Springs is a beautiful place. Never without problems, right? But we're people who can resolve things and sometimes go through things and still love each other and care for each other at the end of the day, hopefully. And so we're just really, really glad to be a part of this community, back into this community. And we appreciate this opportunity to say hello to each of you. And hopefully we'll get to know you better each and every day and be a part of this community any way we can. Photography is my passion, my love. I love to use photography as a way to empower people, even in their photographs, to help them to see the value of their lives through a photograph, a beautiful photograph. And that's my hope, especially to empower women of today. And men, including that, but especially my heart is to help women with maybe their pictures on social media or family pictures or whatever you have that would create value. So that's why we're here, and we just want to be a part of this community. Anything else?
We have an open house on Saturday.
Yes, you're all invited to that.
What is the address of your business?
It's 88 North Main, so right across from the Cedar Springs Brewery.
Okay, so you're right next door to us, Micro Candy.
Oh, I have not
Yes,
met you
yeah.
yet. Okay.
Across the street
okay.
from us. We've been trying to catch you.
Oh,
So welcome.
wonderful. Good. I know
where.
where.
Long time ago. So
I'm usually there about 1 a.m. still, so that's probably why we're not crossing paths.
Working.
So I'm more at
I'm
the
not
the
there.
latter part. You're not there. So, but soon that will end, hopefully.
Not far from when we do arrive at our respective businesses. Tom.
Sometimes, yes.
So, any questions of us that you guys might have?
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
right.
you. We appreciate being here.
Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, hearing none, we will move on to conflicts of interest, any ex parte communication. And hearing none, then we'll move to approval of agenda. Any additions or subtractions to the agenda?
Mr. Ringler, the only thing I might offer is maybe a discussion about, you guys do have a meeting scheduled for next week. I don't know if we need a discussion item for this, or if you just want me to, consult with you guys about it, but we're holding this meeting today.
Let's add that as agenda item 8B.
Then you just slide it over. There's a thing on the bottom. You can slide it the other way.
With that, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item 8B.
Motion to approve agenda.
There should be a bar.
Second the emotion.
Second.
Sorry, we're trying to figure something out.
I got mine.
Second.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. All in favor of approving the agenda with the addition of 8B? Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And approval of consent agenda, which includes the minutes of March 28th and a motion to accept and file the financial report that should be contained in your packet. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion second.
Perfect. All in favor,
Motion
indicate
second.
by saying aye.
Mr. Ringler, I have a question too about the financial. If I may,
I will admit, I didn't see the financial report in there myself this morning. Or when I put the agenda together, I did speak with Ms. Falcon. She was away at a conference last week when I normally put the agenda together. So I did put some of your financials in your packet. It was not in the normal location. So I put it as part of the discussion on the pocket park, because of course, at some point, you guys are going to have to approve of a letter signifying the proposed financial support of this project. So I believe you guys have in there a copy of what your fund balance currently is, along with the upcoming 23-year budget. So I guess the question is for you guys, how much you're willing to put towards this project. I believe currently your fund balance, this is on page, I think, 28 or 29.
Thank you.
well, that wasn't my question, but should I take that? I have several questions about the financial report. Should I move it to the regular agenda, or should we just discuss it now?
Your prerogative.
Okay, well, the murals, sculptures, banners, are we going to make a new mural? Do we need $5,000 for another mural? My understanding is Ms. Ensley is paying for the new mural on her building. And then you're gonna do a mural, is that
I
your,
was gonna put the fence up, but I can't seem to get an answer out of,
you know,
Because they're going to list it.
oh, they are.
They're going to list it and sell that piece of land. That's what I was
Oh, just the grass.
told.
Hmm. Do you know what they're asking for it?
No idea. I can connect you with them.
okay, so that probably wouldn't be a $5,000 mural, right?
It doesn't
Well,
sound like it'll.
In
be
our,
anything.
we have budgeted for public art for $5,000. So that may be a mural, it may be a sculpture, it could be,
Anything?
we don't,
Okay.
yeah. That's just, it's a budget item, so.
Okay, and I'm not quite sure about the streetscape envisioning, what that includes or what that involves.
So currently, we're kind of going through a visioning session regarding this pocket park.
Mhm.
What I'm proposing here is maybe another envisioning, and we could put this off into the future.
Mhm.
Today's actually an excellent day to talk about it,
Mhm.
for the area in front of the Kent Theater.
Yes.
Because I know that there's a longstanding concern from the Kent Theater about the flower boxes.
Mhm.
Now, that would be very expensive to remove,
Mhm.
you know, because it's basically built into the sidewalk.
Right.
But with the upcoming 2023 Main Street repaving,
Mhm.
I believe the city is intent on doing curb bump outs.
Mhm.
And I believe one of the places we talked about doing it was there in front of the Kent Theater.
Mhm.
Now, if that's the case, you're opening up a significant amount of real estate in front of the Kent Theater,
Mhm.
which could become everyone's favorite word, another pocket park or something, so that we can kind of bring more attention to the Kent Theater.
Mhm.
So it's in there for that purpose.
I have been told, can I, Mr. Chairman?
You, yeah, we're having discussion. Yep.
Okay, well, I try to be recognized. I'm told that there, by a longstanding citizen, that there's a spring under there in front of the Kent Theater. Does anybody know anything about that? That was capped before the sidewalk? No? Okay.
Probably a limited number of DDA members were on the DPW 30 years ago.
If it were, like, that could be a thing, that it could be a feature.
Sarah, do you know?
Do you know?
If I may, there is one of the previous conversations with previous city manager and DPW director. One reason why they didn't want that moved was because there's a sprinkler system somehow under there that goes towards down Cherry Street. At least that's what they told us. And so that would have to be rerouted.
It seems like it would be a nice thing if it's there to make it a part of
That
the.
may be something to inquire.
Yes, because I don't think we use that system anymore anyways. My other question was about flower box expense. Does our city work on the flower boxes now, or do you, Mrs. Ensley?
We usually purchase the mulch and put it down. But if the new city worker would like to do that, that would be awesome. 'Cause I'm pretty slammed.
Well, so the city employee, which by the way, we're having a ridiculously hard time hiring people.
Mhm.
Didn't AJ
I'm sure that's not a concern for anyone on the board.
That's not a problem anybody's having.
That person was envisioned more as a director of the DDA, not an employee like a DPW person. We're looking to hire 3 DPW workers, if anybody knows anybody. But to answer Ms. Powell's question, that is for the Ensley team to purchase mulch. They did previously put in perennials instead of the annuals that we were doing previously. But we also charge, I believe, watering to that line item.
Okay. Since the garden club is fired up, I'll have to have a few questions about how the DDA would like to support the garden club with plants and mulch and all that sort of thing. It's a huge expense. It's a big garden. It's well loved by the community. So that's why I'm just looking for a few extra bucks to go. I know the city does some of it, but what?
So let me ask you this. Are you asking directly for the garden club, or are you thinking for the inevitability during this meeting for a financial contribution to the pocket park?
I'm talking about the community garden. We have to purchase a lot of plants for that garden. And we have to pay maintenance for that sprinkler
I
system.
believe the existing budget that was approved is for the flower box expense that's in front of the Kent Theater, correct?
All those downtown sidewalk flower boxes, is that $500
$500?
goes for that. I don't think any of it goes toward the community flower garden, does it?
So it's not budgeted.
Right.
But obviously, for some line items, we over budget.
Mhm,
And so I don't see any harm in the garden club approaching the DDA,
mhm.
asking for a financial contribution, but it's not
Okay.
specifically budgeted.
Okay. And then my last question is the $6,000 for winter snow removal. And we talked and talked and talked about the curb snow. Will that $6,000 be used toward that?
Well, so first of all, we'd have to talk to O'Dowd and see whether they're willing to take that on.
Mhm.
Second of all, the horrible thing about Michigan winters is we never know what we're gonna get.
Right, right.
So, we could get 40 feet of snow next winter, and then obviously that becomes much greater.
Right, right. So we got the $6,000 sitting there if we need it for those curbs
Well,
and the sidewalks.
Sure, and so the question becomes all that more important because I'm gonna be asking this board to contribute 30 to 50,000 bucks at the end of this meeting toward the
Right.
pocket park.
Absolutely,
That wipes out a significant portion of the fund balance of this board,
right.
which if we have 40 feet of snow, you don't have a fund balance to dive into
Mhm.
to get that taken care of.
Right, but it's been an important issue and I'm just wondering where we stand on that. Okay, thank you.
All right, we will go back then to the approval of the consent agenda, unless anyone else has further discussion. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of approving the consent agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on, unfinished business, an update of the summer entertainment series.
So first things first, Ms. Hillary from the Cedar Springs Brewing Company put a significant amount of work into helping the city book the concerts in the park. That's recently been finished and finalized.
Page 10 of your packet.
Say I have the list.
And the brewery also helped us put together the flyer / poster that the mayor's just showed us. So those are available. They're on the front counter. We'd be happy to provide you with as many as you'd like. Let's get out, people to the heart this year.
I just spoke about it with the folks from CCM.
The city council is also approved of the social district from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 5 PM to 9 PM. And then additionally, any dates that the city manager can therefore after approve. Primarily that's thought of as for community events. So that's going to be great. We had a ton of people coming out for that concerts in the Heart last year. But the second thing that this board is proposing to do is a movie series at the Kent Theater. So I've invited Mr. Hopkins to speak with you guys about that. I did put together a list of proposed movies that we could show, comedies at the Kent. But there's some questions still about what day, what time, and how do we distribute tickets.
You have that proposal in here, Mike?
I believe there's an email
11.
exchange in there.
11?
Correction, 11/12, excuse me.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hopkins?
So the city manager approached me and Len Ellington about hosting the movies at the theater once a week. Main thing, I guess, is determining which day of the week. He's talking on Tuesdays, but the projectionist prefers it on Thursdays just because of his work schedule and he's a volunteer. But he says if it has to be on Tuesday, he can make it work. It's just easier for him on Thursday. For those that don't know, when you're ordering movies that are not fresh, brand new out of the box office, you can put in the request. You may not know until the week before whether you actually get it. Because if for some reason somebody in the area is playing one that they're charging for, that trumps anybody that's showing a movie for free. And so you can have a tentative list of when they'll play, but you can't guarantee it up until like a week beforehand. And so, like I said, I've got the list that he suggested that, for ones that he would like. And then so we just kind of put them in the order of dates and we can have a couple on standby in the end, just in case you've got to rotate out.
Would there be like any sort of a notification system? So we can if it's on June 1st, we know for sure we are getting Ace Ventura. Can you put out a blast for us so that we all know, so that we can tell people that,
Yep.
yeah, on June 9th,
Ace Ventura is definitely playing. But I would be a lot more apt to push that out towards everybody if I knew exactly what it was.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Usually about 85 to 90% of the time you get the movie you want. But like, for instance, for this movie we just played at the Kent Theater, we didn't actually get it until Friday when it was supposed to be going. So there are times when that happens. Like I said, 85 to 90% of the time you get what you're asking for.
I was just curious. As I said, as long as I know what it is, I'll make sure that everybody that comes in and sees me for a week before that is gonna hear about it.
Is there a rating on any of these Rs or PGs or?
Well, all the ones that they're all family friendly ones that there's no rated R ones in here as far as I know. Ace Ventura, Birdcage,
Animal
I think
House.
Animal House is.
Animal House would be questionable,
Big.
if that's a question, but the rest of those are PG or PG-13 at the most.
Keeping in mind, I did not look at the ratings. I just picked some movies that I thought.
Believe me, I know. And to be honest, I would see every single one of these. However,
That I know would not be considered a PG or below, or at least PG-13.
Yeah, Animal House is down in the ones past the 12 weeks anyway that we
I love that movie, but
typically the rated R ones are Treasurer and a couple other people that are adamant that the theater only plays PG-13 movies. Unless we can define why it, like that one where we had somebody local from Cedar Springs High School that was in a movie that was rated R.
believe me, I love every film on this list. I'm a huge fan of. So I got no problem with it personally, but I know that that's one you're probably gonna have trouble getting people into. The rest of them, not a problem.
Well, we'd be happy to have our graphic person create a poster for it, but I think we also need to define whether it's gonna be Tuesdays or Thursdays. I think from our previous discussion, Tuesday was gonna be preferable given the other events that were ongoing, so.
So yeah, if that's the date you want, they can make it happen, but
Does the board have a preferred time? Part of the question I had was, well, we want to bring people into downtown to the bridge, you know, for other reasons. If the movies are at 6, now they can get out and still go to dinner. If it's 8, you know, maybe people are going to dinner first and then, but now it's a Tuesday night, it's gonna be 9, 10 o'clock before they're out of the movies. So what's a preferred time that you guys?
I think
put it at
7.
7. It's gonna be consistent with your concerts in the park.
Right.
That way people are thinking 7, 7,
Agree.
7,
I
7.
agree.
That gives people a little bit of time to go get something to eat before the movie and afterward.
Well, most of the stores are closing up around 6, 6:30, so they can encourage the shopping and dining and then go to a movie.
And what about ticket distribution? I mean, we could make it so that people have to go into your store to grab a ticket. Or we could make it as simple as show up to the theater and the first 100 people get in. Obviously, people are not going to be forced to go to your stores if that's the case, but it also eliminates a lot of the ongoing.
Was it in your budget to print tickets?
They typically, what we do for tickets is we have the old roll fashion and then just rip them off per person. But I imagine there probably could be a system made up where you could do them ahead.
What would the local businesses prefer?
No, I haven't talked to local businesses, but you could do one of two ways the way I look at it. You can either do it, just go to the theater and chance it, or you could do like B93 does with Birthday Bash. You have different locations where they can get them. So if there's gonna be 12 movies and you just add up how many businesses are in the downtown and divvy it up, so a different week you're getting a ticket from this place or that place, and the next week you're getting them from 2 different places.
I wonder if it would be confusing for people.
Yeah, if you change the
Yeah.
location.
The
of it.
simplest is show up and you're in.
I think so
But,
too.
Yeah.
The counter to that being what Mr. Womack just said, then there's no real encouragement for them to go see Dave, me,
Mm.
Jody. That's what becomes the.
Antique shop.
Well, I personally think a business maybe do on movie nights, you get 10% off in the store. Or $5 off a kid's meal or something like that. I don't know. I don't own a retail shop, but
How many
Just
free
thinking.
tickets will we distribute? You know,
Well, you figure probably about 150, 175 tickets. The theater holds 275 or 280 ticket or seats. But just with the concept of some people are still worried about how sitting close next to you are, if you say that you're 150, 175 tickets, and if you
Hopkins,
do have two,
Do they use the same tickets each week, or is it you guys change the tickets?
you change the tickets up.
Really, in my mind, the simplest solution is first 150 people that show up at the theater are in. Simplest one, less confusion, you don't change anything. And if I learned anything from all my time in the army, keep it simple.
yeah.
Do it the easiest possible way. And that would be, if that's what I would suggest we do, is just first 150 people show up at the theater, get in, and that's it. And that, to me, that's the simplest solution.
Maybe worth keeping it easy in the first year especially. I mean,
Yep.
Valid point.
hopefully it becomes popular and we can spread them out going forward when we have a little more time to work on it.
You could just put up a flyer with everybody that's sponsoring it on it and have it posted in your businesses.
I think we'd all be putting a poster up anyway with the dates.
Mhm.
Posters and talking all.
I
social
would
media
love them
profiles.
digitally so I can advertise them.
If anybody wants that,
I
the
would like it.
concerts, I can send that to you digitally as well. So
Do it.
just reach out to me.
We can put it on the city webpage too.
Some cities, and I have forwarded it to each of you.
The concert is, I'm saying we could do the
Yeah.
movie one also.
I'm all for that.
And you get it done this week, you can talk to WZZM about it.
I don't think there's no action that we need to take. So discussion, I mean, everybody's comfortable with Tuesday, 7 o'clock,
Tuesday,
tickets at the theater.
That works.
Okay. If that's your proposed schedule, then I can just work with you if you have any details you want in the poster.
Yep, I can do that.
I can get my graphic guy to put that together for you.
Can Mark do the Tuesday? Did he?
Yes, he said he can do the Tuesdays, but he prefer the Thursdays, but if he had to do it Tuesday, he would.
We'll throw in a little gift card for Mark.
Well, that's what I told him, because he's like, hopefully I'm getting extra for this being a Valentine.
Tell them to come and see me, copies on me. I got it.
There you go.
Thank you for the work you put in.
Tuesdays is it.
Okay, the social district, I believe you updated. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Hopkins.
Harry.
And then any discussion on 71 North Main, the modified mural?
It's gonna start getting modified soon. Yes.
And the hashtag, that's what I was wondering about. What is the hashtag going to be or what?
So hashtag was never something that was part of what the DDA paid for. So if I choose to do a hashtag, it would be something I choose.
But we have to approve it, right?
No.
I don't disagree with that. It's fine.
But it's our mural.
But the mural has already been approved.
Right.
I will choose the hashtag.
What will the hashtag be?
I don't know if I'm gonna do one.
I would like some reference to Red Hawks. So that people know what those wings signify.
I honestly have no idea how hashtags work.
Yeah. Can you explain it?
I was gonna say, I can explain it if that's.
Well, you're the one that come up with this, I want a hashtag.
No, I didn't know about hashtag. I was just hoping you had some reference.
No, you actually kept emailing saying, what's the hashtag gonna be? And I'm like, where did this even come from? So,
Essentially, so just briefly, a hashtag, I think, is everybody who takes a picture with it can upload it to a. particular,
Absolutely.
was Instagram.
yep.
So that
Well, it
we can have-
also works for Twitter. It also
Yeah.
works for Facebook.
I'm so old. So that, each person can have it in the same location, you can continue to see it in the same location. So as long as it's a hashtag and it doesn't change,
It doesn't
it
really
doesn't really
matter.
matter.
And it may happen organically.
Right.
I mean, that's
That's typically what happens.
yeah.
That's the advantage to not assigning one is that if the people who get their picture taken at that say Red Hawk City or whatever, that is
That will be the
an
hashtag.
organic evolution of a hashtag is better than trying to force one.
Most
Mhm.
murals don't have a hashtag on them.
Okay, it wasn't my idea. I have
Yeah.
to say that, but
Okay.
I was just wondering if you had decided to have one, what it was.
Hadn't even really thought about it. You just, that email come through when I was on vacation and I put it to silence and
See, Rose, you and me, we gotta talk to Tom and Laura about this whole organic thing, because I honestly
Yeah.
thought you chose one and put it on there, so.
You can,
People
but
choose
I
them
find,
for like weddings.
yeah.
I find that when they evolve on their own, they tend to take on a life of their own. They just
Absolutely.
Yeah.
fly and you know what I'm talking about. So like, if you try to force it, it never works. Once I stopped forcing them, they started flowing on their own and just, yeah.
I believe the modification was already approved, right, by the board?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Further action.
Any other discussion on that? We would move forward to new business and the Pocket Park at 17 North Main.
So Mr. Stout is finally here with us. You guys have all seen his draft proposal, which he put together himself, and I appreciate it. Looks great. I think part of what we gotta talk about today is how and what we'd like to see modified. And I'm sure that the city council would like to see that price come down a little bit. And then at some point, you guys are going to be asked to make a financial commitment based on the money that the DDA has, both in the bank and moving forward in this year's budget and future budgets. So I will turn it over to Mr. Stout.
One of the things we've seen in a lot of communities, again, is really creating either pocket parks or other types of gathering spaces. And just conceptually, I guess there's a couple of things. We do try to keep in mind, even at this early stage, that things need to be fairly durable, low maintenance, really, it's a real intense environment. And at least to try to come up with, a list of materials, Mr. Wallach and I had conversations about, well, how do we reduce maintenance, start getting into, and we've done some projects where, where we programmed some lawn areas, but actually, we were just envisioning something like a synthetic turf, again, keep the maintenance to a minimum. Again, if you get rain or any type of weather, you're you're not dealing with a muddy situation, you're not dealing with cut grass, things like that. The main walk area, we're thinking primarily concrete, and if we do some accenting, it might be like an integral color to the concrete. The key with this project, and you were trying to wrestle with conceptually, I don't know if all of you know that there's a 29-inch by 48-inch elliptical storm sewer for the Kent County Drain Commissioner that runs right down the middle of the site. And it's only buried about 18 inches to 2 feet. So it's, we're trying to again be mindful of whatever improvements, in case there's need for maintenance, what's the minimal impact that happen in the proximity of that storm.
We
that
shouldn't
storm
plant a
sewer.
tree on top of it.
Not necessarily, no. So we went, we just used a broad base of, typically County Drain Commission had at least a 20-foot easement. So we tried to, if there were, shade is a big component. There are also other ways to create shade other than trees. But we feel that trees are important in an urban area because, of the heat island effect and everything like that. Environmentally, they're just very wise. There are some other opportunities like shade, tarps and things like that that could also be worked in, but, we looked at a very basic premise of, providing some seating, either fixed or movable. Things like, should an outdoor restroom, which again, could be a future phase, but we were just trying to, all right, what's a snapshot? If you start looking at these things like festoon lighting, sound systems, security cameras, and given the fact that as we're all painfully aware that construction costs are probably about 30% above what say that they were, with the supply chain issues, who knows where they're going to go. But just what we're seeing on similar projects and similar materials and similar durability, trying to come up with at least something conceptually. And the same comment holds true when we were working on the heart of Cedar Springs Park. When you start looking at grants, selling at least a concept is key. There's going to be multiple levels of refinement when you get into a project of this type. This was just a first version, trying to help facilitate looking at some of that grant funding. Again, having you hear it all the time, outside opinion of costs, an engineer's opinion of costs, or something of that effect, because these grant agencies are looking at, that these numbers are, yes, they're conservative, but then they're also what we see as the construction.
Just to follow up on that, so I have identified and we've applied for and initially been approved for a grant 50% of this project. The paperwork is due by the 23rd. So we need to really accomplish this today if possible, to give Mr. Stout a couple of days to put together his final work so that Ms. Falcon and I can apply for it in totality.
50%.
50%, yes. Now, the city council has already stepped up and they have an up to amount. And obviously, we're going to be asking this board to put together an up to amount. And then there is a second grant, which I've identified, which I just haven't had time to actually apply for, but that grant might also be good for 50%. I don't know if that would be, 100% paid for, or if that's more like, okay, we'll meet you guys all in the middle and do thirds or something like that. Doing my best to get this paid for by other people.
Go ahead, Dave.
All right, so the two questions I have, the two primary questions then, in looking at this, it's a synthetic surface that's on that now, like an AstroTurf or something?
Synthetic grass, yes.
Okay, it's the newer version of the grass with the rubber? Or, okay,
Well, actually, it's, most of them now are, depending on the.
Field
variety,
turf.
They either use a stand filler, and it's got the turf that actually now it's got multicolored. So we did
Looks
one in
like-
Hudsonville. You look at it, it looks real.
Like water actually absorbs through it and stuff like to the ground, so you shouldn't have too much puddling and whatnot.
No, it's
Dog
not-
mistakes it for grass and takes a leak on it, it's not gonna sit there.
Correct. It's a stone base. So it's very poor. Again, it goes back to the being a kind of green, stormwater friendly, pours right through. And really all the beauty of it is Hudsonville used it in their downtown little pocket park and they love it. There's again, little events. They have weddings, so they can set up tables on, and it's really adhered on the edges. So it's actually a pretty, kind of impressive little system, and it's a nice little application again.
And this
Very
is
durable.
within the social district, I believe. So like part of our vision on the city council, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Fire away.
Part of our vision of it was for people to be able to go get food or drinks or what have you and take it to the space to be able to eat outside when it's lovely. And that was kind of the,
So then my second question here was the restroom. Obviously, that's the largest.
It's about 40% of the project.
Right, right. And is that mandatory? Is it something that we have to have?
No, we talked, city manager and I talked about that. Could be a phase 2. You could see how things go if you feel there's a need. I don't think it's anything that's gonna be required. There are some other elements, we were budgeting things like site furniture. Again, those are things that could be acquired, depending on the popularity and the need. There's some skill building.
the restroom, we were looking at it having a boiler so it could be year round.
Mr. So is this plan got a boiler plant in it, or is that just the Heart of Cedar Springs bathroom?
Well, this one would, depending on the size and scale, it could have a hot water boiler where it could be.
Is that
again,
current?
winter.
Is that currently budgeted with a hot water
That's what
boiler?
That's what the 150,000, what we budgeted was for a full season, year-round
And
restroom.
then if that is put in, where is the maintenance of that? Because there's both a security and a maintenance issue with a standalone restroom.
So
That would be part of what we'd have to.
But everything, the way I envision it would be like 2 unisex with a small chase area between the two, all the boiler equipment, everything would be indoors, locked, secured. It's just a question, then
Then-
talk about security cameras and things like that would be added measures. but-
Would it be more economical to do like a mini split so you can actually air condition and then also heat? So it keeps it.
Possibly.
Yeah, they're very inexpensive.
Yeah, I've got one in my pool house and it works great.
Yeah.
It keeps it.
We don't get a lot of call, typically in parks for air conditioning, but that's always a possibility.
I mean, to me, that's one of the biggest concerns is, okay, if it's gonna be locked and supervised, well, somebody's gotta come unlock it and, what hours is it gonna be open and closed and who's gonna clean the thing? Public restrooms aren't usually clean. So that's an issue and it's gonna be a thankless job, but there needs to be budget for that, so.
And they smell bad when it gets hot. That's why the air
Right.
conditioner would be nice.
Which again begs the question, is that necessary? So.
Well, so I guess my question and concern then would be, part of what we're anticipating is having some picnic tables and lawn space for drinks and food while you watch a musical performance. At least in my mind, people want to use the restroom where they're at.
Musical performance in the pocket park?
So one of the elements is a little stage for 1 or 2 persons to be able to play music. Very small stage, which is looked upon favorably by the grant people that we're looking for a grant from. Now, of course, does it have to be used for musical performances? No. It could just be another location that you put a couple of picnic tables at. But I think the anticipation is we would have electricity there for somebody to tie in, some kind of speaker system, to play music.
Or as like he said, if people want to have a wedding.
But even fundamentally, if somebody wants to go and get food and go to this place and, eat their picnic, they're gonna want trash cans for the food. They're gonna want a bathroom to use after they're done eating and drinking.
Well, the nice thing with a public restroom is I think it keeps shoppers in town longer because they don't have a need to evacuate. They can't go use one in a restaurant unless they're eating at the restaurant. But, Saugatuck has a couple of them. Grand Haven has several. It's just nice to have. If we had at least one, it would be nice.
Now, we do have bathroom at staging area, and we're anticipating, 2 or 3 units at the Pocket Park. I'm sorry, not the Pocket Park, sorry.
Park.
The park, the Heart of Cedar Springs Park, but that is 2 or 3 blocks away.
Wouldn't be
Now, it's a significant expense. It might be as simple as reducing it down to one stall.
Mhm.
It could be as simple as saying, well, we're just not ready for it this year. We'll use it, see how it turns out. If people are really complaining about not having a bathroom, then we'll budget for it next year.
If there was a sign that said public restrooms here and here on a little wayfinder panel, that would be fine too. Cause like Saugatuck, it's like a 7-block walk for one of them.
They're very popular.
Yeah.
We actually do a lot of work with Saugatuck. I boat out there every year. I'm very familiar with it. We actually
just-
talked at one time of putting another one near the Butler, and, so it kind of bookend,
Yeah.
because it is a big amenity that just, people just find that they really need in a downtown area, rather than having to, like you said, vacate and leave and head somewhere else just to find a restroom. You want to, when they're downtown, you want to capture them.
Yeah.
And
We
again,
also looked at it specifically from the perspective of having the boiler in it so that it could be used in the winter. Because not all of our public restrooms right now are accessible in the winter. And when you're doing the mingle with Kris Kringle, like that was a problematic piece. So
Could we have heat on the top of this proposed stage area for Santa? Sorry, first, I just dawned on me we could have Santa Claus here and I was so excited. I
Well,
couldn't.
This
there's
is kinda crazy.
electricity.
A lot of heat in it.
And so
Come
Ms.
on.
Ms. Hensley, part of Cedar Springs project is
Right.
also to have a bathroom and a concrete area in front, which at some point might be a splash pad. But that bathroom almost certainly will be heated for the winter. I personally don't know if people really need a heated bathroom in the downtown throughout the winter. But, it's probably cheaper to do it when you put the bathroom in, right?
Yeah.
What would heated sidewalks cost if you up the boiler size? I'm just asking the question, because it sure would be nice to not have to shovel it, because that's an expense that.
do that in
is-
Holland, I think.
Oh,
So,
yeah, all
they
the
do it in
streets in
Charlotte
Holland,
too.
yeah.
A lot of it.
Depends on the area and the boiler size. I don't know, but, my guess would be, could add, as much as, $15 to $20 a square foot.
Right.
Holland literally has a power plant that they use that heats the water, for their downtown sidewalks, so. You guys want to buy a power plant for downtown?
Write a
They
check.
might need one after they shut Palisades down.
in your, but in your vision, do you have any idea who's going to do this? Who's going to maintain it? Who's going to clean the restrooms? Who's going to open and close? Who's going to put toilet paper in there? Who's going to?
The same people who do it right now.
DPW.
Yeah, the problem isn't so much that, is we can't get anybody to come work for us. And, our people do a great job, but unfortunately, I hate to see this, but the public is just disgusting in public bathrooms.
Which I get all that. That's what that's the reason I keep hammering this point. We have a bathroom already down at the staging area, and it's locked all the time because it
Well,
isn't serviced.
It's not locked all the time. It's locked throughout the winter because it's unheated and we can't have the pipes bursting. So once the nightly temperatures are above freezing, we open it for the summer. So if it was heated, I think that takes away that problem. But I don't disagree with you, at least in my mind. I'm not a huge fan of the bathroom as it is. I'd like to have it for a couple of years, see how it gets used. And if people are using it in such a way that they need a bathroom, then we have the option to install one. Because we'll defer a place for it on the site plan. I don't know if we need to do underground pipe work now or, in the future, but that would be my preference.
Are any of the trees that are on this, would these abut neighboring properties if there was, for example, at 15 North Main, if a structure was,
The parking lot area?
well, it's a parking lot now.
And again, going back to, something like a tree that was a little more, definitely more columnar shape would be a possibility. Again, this is just kind of a graphic.
Sure.
But if need be, there's some nice columnar, Freeman maples and, other type of flowering pears that are much more tighter. Horn beams, again, kind of boring down and, the manager mentioned something about some of the floral flowers that are shown. That may end up being like a liriope grass that again is very dense, does not really require really much of the way of maintenance. Those are kind of those next level decisions that we would really bore down into and really take a hard look at, the selection, something like the seat wall example. It could be a simple concrete seat wall as opposed to, You know, we're thinking, like a traditional seat wall with maybe some cultured stone and like a concrete cast cap. There's all kinds of ways when we start looking at the detail development to kind of fine tune some of that. But, you know, again, they also goes back to how do you minimize the amount of maintenance? Because, and as, like you said, some of those other communities, you know, working out in Hudsonville and, you know, skateboarders, you know, you've got to design stuff. So they, you know, we did some stuff down in Three Rivers for another, we call it the Mural Mall Pocket Park. Has little stainless steel, little bumps that kids just can't grind their skateboards on. So there's all kinds of, you know, little details to think about as you get into the refinement stage.
What about, I know we talked a lot about containers there for little pocket retail shop. And I don't see any of that on here. Is that like something that can happen? Like, where are we at with that? Because I know we've all talked about that several times.
So we did talk about that initially, having a little cutout for maybe a food truck to be parked up on there to operate. And that's kind of what this meeting is about. What do you guys want to see? I asked Mr. Stout to put this together because we're on a very tight time
Yep.
frame. To do this and then have him, you know, put something together for a second approval, it just was not going to work that way.
Gotcha.
So if the board wants to see it, you know, with a cutout for a food truck or one of those,
I don't necessarily think a food truck.
or shipping container,
Yeah.
temporary retail or whatever you want to put there. That's fine. You know, to tell him that's what you want, he's gonna have to go back and reconfigure it in some
I
way.
think we talked about that at the Heart as well as this location, had we not? Incubator. That's,
Irrigation allowance. Having flower boxes in there probably wouldn't work, because who's gonna take care of them? We've been down that road before. And if we had, instead of 4 trees there that obviously need water and maintenance, and they go down into the pipes, screw stuff up, maybe a couple of small pavilions or covered somethings for people to get out of the sun or the rain. Are we gonna have I can't really tell by the drawing, a fence between the park and the building next door?
We did budget some fencing into it, and it's a question of, you know, we went more, a little less fencing and more of a green,
Mhm.
you know, shrubbery, maybe like an arborvitae that doesn't need really any pruning,
Mhm.
you know, to try to blend the two. Again, that's kind of a refinement detail. Is it more hard fencing, or, you know, more of a green or a softer type of barrier, because you do have the parking lot on the one side. So I think you want some type of visual separation. Obviously, you don't want it to where.
keeps
you
the
know,
dust,
visually it
keeps the
flows
dust
right
down
in.
too.
But I was
But then
thinking,
You also don't want it so confined, because it is a narrow space. There's gonna be a balance there where it feels a little claustrophobic if you just fence the whole
Right.
thing.
the fence I was talking about was between the park and the building next door, so that maybe we could put some sort of a mural on that fence and not have to look at the building next door for whatever reason.
Well, then you're talking about the building north of the pocket park?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Jose-'s building.
next to the building.
Yeah, I know, now I know which one you're talking about.
As it's currently shown, it looks like there's some arborvitae there, which, to Mr. Stout's point, it's a nice green visual. My question would be on the back half of the property headed towards the new fire station building.
Mhm,
That might be a better location for a fence with a mural on it.
mhm,
We do want to prevent people from walking through that area because it is private property.
mhm.
So I guess, Mr. Stout, did you have anything recommended for the west
We didn't-
side of the property?
Again, we didn't show a specific location, but we budgeted about 100 feet for some fencing. Now, again, that could easily be. And also, we put, you know, a good level of contingency in our original estimate. As you can see, there's about $80,000 of contingency. Sounds like a lot, but it's really not a lot. But again, you know, part of that is not only changing construction costs, but also details like that. As we
Mhm.
refine, you know, as you go down this process, what you'll see is the next level would be that the contingency might drop to 10%. And then as you get into right before bidding or construction, it might drop to 7.5%. So as we refine, we try to lower those numbers as we go.
It looks really nice.
So could I ask a few questions which might help Mr. Stout? So the little stage area,
And that was, that was something I envisioned just as something, it might be just as simple as one little raised 6-inch elevated area. So
Mhm.
where,
that the-
as the manager mentioned, it may have, it could serve for somebody that, say, a one-person band or tables, or just something to try to create a little bit of elevation.
Performance
change.
stage.
You want
That's-
poetry in the park?
That's the little yellow kind of a teardrop shape.
It's got like 2 tables.
It's just, it's hard to see on
It's
this.
kind of,
Okay.
it's peachy up here with a couple of tables on it.
Yep, okay.
Again, I think that's the, as the manager mentioned,
It's something that the right place is actually looking for in a pocket park.
trying to come up with areas that are very flexible, can meet multiple uses. I mean, the furniture, we'd recommend that, probably 60% of furniture, which is always a challenge in downtowns, be movable. And so, because you want the ability to have a lot of different things going on.
And this is part of how we become eligible for the grant money,
And
right?
that's what they're looking for is,
Yeah.
I mean, the ideal scenario too would be, there, a lot of these grants talk about 4-season uses. They're really trying to get communities, and especially Michigan, to expand beyond the 6 months of great weather that we have.
Which
How
is
you-
where the heated bathroom.
So any thoughts on that stage area? Good, bad? Yes,
I
no?
like the idea.
I like
I think it's
too.
great.
What about the two artificial grass areas?
I like them.
Reduces your maintenance costs. It
Yes.
can be used for tables, chairs, just
And
sitting
this
on
is
the
space
grass.
that right now we're mowing, right? I mean, this actually reduces what we as the city have to support.
And it actually does look like real grass right up until the time it's about mid-fall and you're like, why is that grass really green?
I'm assuming there's gonna be doggy bags somewhere, or signage.
Well,
because
so
that's what I've
one
seen in
thing-
some of them is the
One
dogs.
question I had for Mr. Stout was whether we'd have access to some kind of water spigots because, yeah, if somebody poops on the grass, hopefully a dog, you're supposed to, you're supposed to hose it off.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it was sloped with center drains
Well,
and you can just.
and that's
hose it.
where, yeah, and we typically, we've seen even, like, we budgeted irrigation system, not only for, say, maintaining the landscape, because really any landscape, usually about the first 2 to 3 years is when it needs the irrigation. Once most trees, shrubs, perennials are established, they really don't take a lot of water. And we're seeing in a lot of downtown areas where you do a lot of trickle irrigation, leaky pipe, where it doesn't spray a lot of water everywhere, but then also, there's also, the distribution system has like maintenance quick coupler, where you could just pop in a hose off something if you need to. Most downtown areas, again, depending on whether the restroom building goes there or not, would you want like a separate drinking fountain? Some type of, we're seeing some communities, they want like the bottle fillers for people. Again, you're trying to do anything you can do to kind of meet people's expectations. So again, those are all kind of things that, again, are easily incorporatable in kind of what our snapshot was, but again, it's kind of that next level of detail.
Okay, so how about the festoon lights? This is like string lights that go above.
I love them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think they're
that-
fabulous.
That makes it great for outdoor nighttime use.
Correct.
Mhm. And if what you're trying to do is keep people
In the area.
downtown. And again, at winter, when it gets dark at, 3 o'clock.
Mhm.
I think and again, if you're trying to get them during the like mingle with Kris Kringle, and I think it can be a very festive.
I know it adds more, but a nice gas fire feature would be awesome too.
That's the one I thought of after the fact. We're seeing a lot of communities that.
Yeah.
You have it on a
gas
timer, you
fireplace,
just
yeah.
turn it on, it shuts off when people
Downtown
walk away.
Collins.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Tremendously successful.
We're looking at putting one in the heart.
Yep, and-
It's on that plan.
And I would love to see it here too, but now the cost goes up. And
Mhm.
we'd have to cite it. I don't know where it would go.
Maybe in that middle grass area.
And that's something, I think there's also the caveat of whatever we do come up with, especially at the next level, the Kent County Drain Commissioner's office they're already boring down to that next level too. well, how do you see this being built? Or how do you, how much of a foundation, how much, underground infrastructure do you envision in proximity to that storm line? That's also, I think, all those final things are gonna be contingent on their buy-in as well, so. But is the response for it? Yeah, we can definitely modify and, if that's the desire. And again, we've got that contingency, maybe it's, maybe we, as manager mentioned, maybe this is just a single unisex building, restroom building. It's not gonna cut the number in half, but it may reduce that $150,000 by 40%. And then maybe allocate that money to the fireplace, something in that vein, when we start looking at the refinement.
And as the mayor indicated, we do have to remember that this is one of two parks. This is by far the smaller, more minor park. We want to create a small oasis of green in the downtown area, but heated bathrooms, splash pad, outdoor fireplace, that's all stuff that we're envisioning in the heart. So, we could add it here, but that's a significant price increase.
Yeah, I don't know if you've looked at the plans for the heart, because our amazing architect here has also done that. And we have all of that and Counselor Race was the one who really said, we need a fire pit, the gas fire.
Yeah,
to
the
make
only
it
thing
more
with this, the
safe.
visibility of it, when you're driving through, if you see it, it's gonna be like, hey, let's go over there.
Yeah, I was even,
No.
thinking, in vain with a fireplace, I was even thinking about, I've designed some things where, say like, a dry return bubbler fountain or something in here for noise. I mean, just that splash of water. Again, those are the type of elements that we could, as we get into the really refinement stage, look at incorporating something, a few more bells and whistles and twists. And again, work within the framework of the overall budget. Those are very simple adds.
We talked to him for the heart about the possibility of ice skating. And he told us that they make
Synthetic ice.
that you roll out.
I don't know if any, you mentioned, Cadillac, did their downtown pocket park, right? And they've got an outdoor fireplace, they've got a splash pad, and they went and just got synthetic ice. And the nice part about it, you talk about maintenance, it's virtually like 4x8 sheets, and the DPW can set them up, and you don't have to have a Zamboni, you don't have to add water, and you can literally skate on it from, the end of September into May. And it's those little things are what a lot of communities are going to really, expand the uses.
And they roll it over their splash pad. So then you take it off and you have your splash pad.
So I just don't want to double up this park versus the heart.
Say for the purposes of this discussion, if we stick on the pocket park, so do we have an estimate of what you're asking from
Well,
this
so, I mean,
board?
before we get to that point, we have to figure out what we want to see in this park. Because right now, I think the estimate is $575,000, which is a lot of money.
Even at half.
Yeah, I mean, so the estimate right now is we're gonna get half of that, or I'm sorry, 250,000 of that from the grant we've applied for. The city council's already indicated that they're gonna put in some amount, 200 something.
Yeah, we did an amount not to exceed, you don't have it in front of you, but it's
But-
that half.
But in looking at your budget, I believe you guys can safely put in about 30,000 from your fund balance to this. The question then becomes, and this is where I thought where Counselor Powell was going, you could also shave some of your money from your current year budget if you wanted to. So for example, you have $10,000 in there for an employee. Now again, I envision that being somebody who could be a director to get more of those stuff you want done. But $10,000, can go a long ways towards getting some of these things done as well. You have 20,000 in there for parking lots. Now, that could go entirely towards this project, and you just say, we're not contributing to a parking lot this year. Now, the library, the old fire station building, I suspect that's gonna be down here shortly. So how intently does this board want to see a new parking lot at the location of the old fire station building? There are ways, I would ask for a minimum of 30 at this point. But, I don't think we're done doing this. Ms. Ensley brought up a good point. Do we want to have a space dedicated to potentially pop-up retail. We want to have a place for a food truck to be able to park and serve food there.
For what it's worth, I think the bathroom is somewhat important. I think it could be one stall.
I
But
agree.
I think it's important, and I think it's important that it be year round. And the city is the one that would do the cleaning and maintenance for the most part, I believe.
That would come out of,
Our DPW budget.
wouldn't it be billed to DDA
Well,
if it's a DDA park?
So this board 5 years ago had no money.
Right.
This year it has 60 some odd thousand bucks.
Hmm.
So it would be nice if they could contribute some money towards maintenance. in this park.
Yes.
But that's a budgetary, you know, and keep that in mind when you guys are thinking about approving this and things you want to see in it.
We talked about brick versus poured cement.
Mr. Stout, so there's this kind of curly, what I understand to be concrete work. Could you talk about that?
And I was just envisioning 95% of this area would just be regular concrete with maybe some accent color put into some type of integral color. Again, looking at maintenance, trying to look at, and also additional cost. You know,
Would it be-
yes, you can do things with brick pavers, but you know, my experience, brick pavers tend to settle and they're expensive. And
We
so,
don't want
again, trying to think of something that's kind of.
Be nice if there was at least some perforations in that for water, just so you don't have collecting water either.
Yeah, slope it and drain it.
Exactly, and we made some allowance for additional storm drainage work. Again, being
We're on
only
top of the
36 feet
drain.
wide, we're right on top of the drain, I don't think we'll have a problem.
And texture.
Which I think with the size of that's gonna make it difficult.
Yeah.
With the size,
It's just have died.
There's a couple of structures in there we may, and again, we may have to coordinate with the Kent County Drain Commissioner on how to work into that. But again,
Well, the size of it too, to go to Mr. Womack's question, I think it's gonna make it difficult to put an incubator spot or anything in that if it's that small.
Mr. Stout, could you also talk about the sitting wall? I can't tell if that's one as well.
yeah, and I just was just kind of bracketing the lawn areas with a couple of seam walls. Again, those could be scaled. I mean, obviously cost, we could scale those down. Also, again, the drain commissioner, I think, is gonna wanna weigh in. But, you know, our feeling is too, is again, that combination of having a fixed seating and then movable seating is again, a big component of this. Not only that, but it also creates a little bit of that visual barrier on kind of the outside edges. It really starts to help define the two sides of the park, if you will. There was, you know, one of my conversations with the city manager was even talking about, well, what potentially might happen with this parking lot to the south. That's something that, you know, be mindful of. It is not controlled by the city, and there might very well possibly be a building there in 5 years. We don't know. I don't think anybody's really knows the direction of what may happen there. I was asking the question of is there a possibility of incorporating that somehow in, you know, in the overall scheme of it? But I think whatever plan, you know, again, I try to design to keep things flexible, that if something did happen.
That was my question earlier. If those trees are right on that lot line, do we end up having to take them back out in a few years if that lot is developed?
So let's talk about shade then for a second. So the festoon lights, I think, work perfectly. I agree, you know, at least the visual that he puts together here. Maybe that's not the best way of providing shade, so another possible option is they make these big sun sails, you know, that you could use instead. It's kind of ultra modern, you know, doesn't have the same kind of green, you know, naturey type feel, obviously, but it's probably, I don't know, cheaper. If you're gonna have the festoon.
I don't think
No,
it is.
it's not
It's gonna be
gonna be
more.
cheaper.
It's gonna be more.
I mean, we're seeing even a basics that, you know, we're doing like pickleball courts and other things and people want the sun sails. You know, you could easily budget $15,000 to $20,000 for a reasonable size sun sail. So, you know, I mean, trees are a more economical, shading factor.
Aren't they
but-
also some environmental grant piece?
Wait, I just bought a sun sail, huge one. for my house in Charlevoix. For my deck, that is half the size of this room for $300.
I just go by,
Yeah,
you know,
I literally
commercial.
just was delivered.
Yeah.
But the picnic,
Another
picnic
question.
table that you would get
Yeah.
for your yard is also not, I
Well,
mean,
Here's a good example of, it's like, things like festoon lighting.
No.
From a liability perspective, you're not putting up festoon lighting on this simple little 2-inch diameter.
Correct.
It has got to be a 4-inch square steel tube pole that virtually, if you had a 747 land on the festoon lighting, it would support it. It's
Gotcha.
kind of crazy. But
Must be
from a city
over-engineered.
perspective, the durability and the liability, you've got to really over-engineer things probably 10 times what you would in a residential setting.
So another thing to take into consideration, as Ms. Arp would know, the sun is shining this way in the afternoon. when I suspect this park will be used the most. So maybe if we focus on shade over here on the west side of the project, that'll create the shade we need going towards the east.
again, the placement of the trees is kind of like bottom level, right? Like we don't have to have that. The people at the grant don't care exactly where we put
They're
the tree.
They're looking really, yeah, they're not gonna bore down to, I don't like your tree placement. They're gonna go providing shade in some way, shape or
Right.
form. They're flying at
Right.
5,000 feet, are the spaces flexible? Can they be used for multiple things? That's where they're not, they're.
And then are they accessible? That'll be a
well,
piece.
yeah, and not necessarily the trees per se, but one of the big things they're gonna be looking at, and which I envision this being is the project universally accessible?
Right.
Every aspect of it needs to be universally accessible. They're gonna look at more like that
Right.
than they are, some of the smaller details.
You have a landscape allowance in here just of 20 grand for 4 trees, all the flowers and all that. That's adequate.
Yeah, it's
We
tight,
think-
but it's.
That seems low, yeah.
Are there any major changes that you guys want to propose to Mr. Stout? How strongly do you feel about, it's a tight site, but do you feel like there's enough space there for your proposed?
I don't know.
Because a shipping container might not fit, but downtown Muskegon, they have what they call the chalets, which are basically sheds. You could probably have a 12 by 12 or something shed there as a pop-up retail. That would fit probably in this front corner. So how does the board feel about something like that?
I think I expressed a minute. I love the idea of having some incubator spots, but I don't know if that's really, given the size, is going to be the best space for it.
small there.
I would say something more towards the heart might be better. for that.
Even something, we talked about, the food truck and even the aspect of, you do have the on-street, parking. If your food truck is even parked at the curb and everybody serve it, and it's kind of orientated towards the space.
We've got a parking lot right there.
You
too.
really need to dedicate some space
Yeah.
for a food truck. And not only that, the weight and then you're gonna start changing, anything's possible. And, maybe instead of 4-inch concrete, you do 6-inch concrete where people could drive up on the space. Again, those are kind of the level of detail that we get into.
Personally, I like the concept the way it is. Is that, for the purposes of what we're looking at today, is that something we would need to have immediately approved?
I guess what I'm asking for is if there's any significant changes you want to see, that we ask Mr. Stout to develop that and then approve of the plan with the changes proposed. And then approve of the letter of support with a financial contribution. That's what I'm looking for today. Maybe
With the-
with city manager final approval, just so, I could make sure it reflects what you guys want.
With the heart, we did 4 different ones before we got to the one we submitted.
Problem is we have.
I'm not advocating we have that kind of time. I'm just saying that's the,
Yeah, there's a lot more dynamics.
and it's a bigger park, but I'm just saying that's what he's asking
If we
for.
try to squeeze anything else into here, we're already running out of room.
I think
What we have now, what Mr. Stout has drawn is quite a wonderful use of the very small space.
Mhm.
I'm actually quite impressed with what you were able to put together. And frankly, I think adding anything would be a waste of space. And I think what we have here is perfect for a great proposal. And if there's anything that has to be altered, that would be a boots on the ground in the process of working on a situation. Am I hearing you correctly, Mr. Stout? Yeah.
There's gonna be, as we.
Yeah,
plenty of
right, I
things
understand.
down here.
But for the purpose of writing a grant, what we see is what we need, correct?
I think it's two things. You have to have a basic plan
I understand,
and a budget.
correct.
And beyond those two things, there's a lot of, I think, place to work with where the tree goes and where the lawn goes and the whatever goes. But the bathroom is $150,000.
Right.
Are we gonna have a bathroom there? Is it gonna be 2 stalls, 1 stall? We wanna have a space 2.
Could support a
let's
one
see how much
stall.
grant
I
we
don't
get.
think we need two down
We
there.
get half.
Up to half, and I'm applying for a second grant,
So what if we get the second grant? I mean, let's do it.
if we get it.
Well, we're gonna get it. Let's think positive.
If we put it in as a one stall year round and then we get additional grant money, can we expand it out?
I don't know why you could not. It's just, the only thing if you do things twice, as opposed to once, it won't cost like once.
Right.
It'll be once
Once-
plus.
One stalls are easier to maintain and nowadays you don't have to fight over men and women, just
Oh, it's a lot of them, just both these will be unisex. for
Only
parking,
one to
if there
clean.
were two. It's just, that's the way that's the way
Yeah.
all park developments go.
Especially
Yep.
when you want them to be universally accessible and you want,
Well, that for maintenance and whatever, for a
Right.
whole host of reasons.
Yeah.
Like when we were programming for the Heart of Cedar Springs Park, there potentially could be 3 unisex facilities down there.
right,
There wouldn't be, the days of men's and women's.
is, yeah,
In this, trying to work within the framework of grant, and especially the grants, the DNR they basically say, we want unisex. And so that's the way the whole industry's been heading for about the last decade.
Mhm.
in the interest of moving this along, we have the city managers asking for a motion to approve the proposed pocket park with the final design approval, subject to his review.
Mr. Ringler, just one thing. So the bathroom is the most significant portion of this budget. And I'd like some consensus on that. What are we gonna do with it? Leave it as is, change it, whatever.
I think it's needed.
Yeah, my vote is it needs to be there. I think one stall would be perfectly fine.
I agree.
Especially if that's gonna save us
Agreed.
even $20,000, I say one stall
Then we
makes
could get the
perfect
fire
sense.
I think the fire pit's gonna be logistically a problem with the drain. And that's just my,
What about a wood fire pit?
If
I
we
don't-
put it
If the
right next to
plastic,
that, grass doesn't melt.
I was gonna
You
say,
just
I
have
think
to have
you've
a
got all
method.
kinds
That's
of.
what- And it's labor. You're gonna have somebody do
And
that.
Marty's gonna be,
You have a safety issue.
Again, I don't know, from the drain point of view, I don't know if a fire pit would be a tipping, if it was a gas one, if that would really be a tipping point. Again, I think all those elements would be subject to the drain commissioner's review. I mean, the festoon lighting, again, that's gonna require, basically a 4-foot deep, sonotube foundation. There are gonna be some elements that need to be secured into the ground, but that's all gonna have to have drain commission sign.
So bathroom, you guys are okay with it being reduced to 1 stall?
Mhm.
We want it to be year round.
Anyone who doesn't agree with one stall?
You guys still want it to be heated throughout the year?
If we're gonna
I
do it,
think
I
so,
would do it
yeah,
right.
yeah.
yeah.
Which
I
will
would,
allow-
I would look at a mini split because air in the summer would be nice to keep the stench down and just keep it fresh. It's not expensive. Probably cheaper than a boiler.
Is something we'll look into. Okay, any other major significant changes you guys want to make now or forever hold your peace?
Did we agree on patterned cement instead of brick work in there?
that's a later detail piece.
But that's, right now, it's not budgeted for brick, so, I mean,
Okay.
it's pattern cement.
Okay,
Pattern
I didn't
cement
know
is
for sure.
Not only simpler to do, it's cheaper and it's a lot easier to maintain.
Well, yeah, that's.
Go out and take a look at the corners of our street
I-
here.
I- I have
Brick brickwork is,
Yeah.
I would never do brickwork ever.
Well, the unfortunate part, in a lot of streetscapes, people did brickwork, and it's gotten to the point now where you might as well just do concrete under the brickwork.
Mhm.
Which kind of defeats, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, we did, downtown Howard City. We did the streetscape up there. All the pavers are on a concrete base, just because we didn't want the settlement issue.
Yeah, I understand.
Solves problems, but doubles your cost.
Yeah, it's an expensive look, but it's got a real level of detail to it too.
I think the stage is kind of a nice addition. I don't know about the rest of you.
I like that.
I like the way it's all laid out.
That's written into the current proposal.
It's
correct?
versatile. That's the whole point.
Keep it.
Other than the single stall, are there any other major changes that anybody wants to see or discuss? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the pocket park design.
Motion to approve
Do we have
with
to
the
do?
proposed changes, yes.
To a single stall.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor of approving the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we would be looking for a motion to approve the letter of support and financial commitment. And you were looking for 30,000, I believe, that would be taken from our current balance.
Yeah, like 75. but I'll take it.
I want $75,000, like right now.
Is there any discussion on the amount from the members of the committee?
So one thing I would say is you currently have 50, but I want to reserve 20 between now and June 30. Because there are still some minor things that are being charged to the DDA. I may come back and ask for more money.
Sure you will.
I was gonna say, would it be helpful to do the like in an amount not to exceed?
I believe that is the way it's written.
Okay.
So
It was just a pledge. No, I'm sorry.
the city is obviously much better funded than the DDA is.
Right.
Despite all the hard work we've put in. So I'd be.
You're more funded now than you were.
I'd be more comfortable with 30 now, and I'll come back at a later date if we still have.
Or Mr. Hopkins was dealing with $500 a year.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion on an amount, or do we want to enumerate it as a not to exceed, or is it a pledge?
It does currently, the current draft does read as not to exceed.
Pledge. The current draft reads as a pledge.
Oh. Does it?
It does.
Not to
So-
exceed.
There might be a differentiation then because the motion.
That's on the motion, but on the
Okay.
actual letter.
Oh, okay.
Of course, I could change the language on the letter before you sign it.
Well, what, and can we change it at a later date if we need to put more money towards that?
More money is always okay, I think. Less money is not okay.
Like if we get an additional grant and then we need a certain percentage matching or something.
But if at a later date, Laura Ensley says, well, I absolutely refuse to, support this unless it has a fire pit, then you might need to throw it some more.
Again, I'm looking for a motion for the letter of support, and we can amend it as a not to exceed if we wish.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
And are we doing it as a pledge, or Rose, are you making the motion as a pledge or a pledge not to succeed and not to exceed?
Does that mean permanently not to exceed or
No, we can always make another pledge later. That
Okay.
should be for this amount.
for this amount not to exceed?
Well, I would ask Ms. Powell to clarify the motion then.
The motion would be to pledge an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Along with the letter that I've written.
Yes.
So if you can
Second
change,
that.
if you can change the language in the letter before I sign it.
I thought
And then
David,
Mr. Wilks is seconding that. So if there's any other discussion? Otherwise, as this is a financial commitment, I would ask for a roll call vote. Ms. Arp,
Yes.
Ms. Ensley,
Yes.
Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Ms. Howland,
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
yes,
Mr. Ringler votes yes, Mr. Verisinga,
Yes.
Mr. Wilks.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. And then real quickly, 8B was our meeting next week, which is our regularly scheduled meeting, whether we need to hold that or not.
There won't be much on your agenda. I would probably move to cancel it anyways, but I didn't know if there was something you guys want to talk about.
Would be fine, Skip.
Yes.
So anticipate it being canceled.
Thank you. Correspondence, 2022 calendar, obviously, we're just touched on that. Is that from you?
Nope, the clerk puts it on there for you.
Okay. All right. Downtown Association Workshop.
You guys had budgeted some money for education, I'm not sure. I think you have $1,000 in your budget.
When- Charlie Vox, Laura.
Huh?
It's right in your neighborhood.
Okay, well. Is there any interest in that?
Maybe. I haven't,
June-
There's no way I make it to that, so.
yeah, June 3rd.
I don't know, but I'll let you know.
Okay, and then a Sparta summer newspaper flyer.
We put in there what we received.
We just received that from them. Fair enough. Then we will move on to the city manager DDA director's report.
Well, I guess I'll speak on behalf of Mr. Stupp for 2 seconds. I thought we were gonna come in and completely change everything, so I'm sure he's a little thankful that we didn't do that to him. I think it's a great project. It's gonna be expensive, but I think it's gonna do great things for downtown. It's a good thing to put our money towards, and, you know, Ms. Falcon and I are just gonna continue working on the actual grant side of things, and hopefully we'll get this done.
I would just like to tell you that having just talked to a reporter from WZZM, she said, you have such a cute downtown.
So are we moving on to trustee comments? Would
And-
you like to
well, I was
start?
just
We'll
gonna
start on
say-
your
I
end.
just wanted to say though, that I think, I don't know that that would have been true 10 years ago.
No,
And I think that the DDA is a big reason for that.
Thank you, Ms. Conley. Ms. Howland,
I'm good. Everything's looking really nice.
including the front of your shop. We're getting there.
Yeah, when we can get the door open, it'd be great.
I'll help you with that as soon as we're done with this. I'll send some guys over.
Ms. Ensley?
So being gone for a couple weeks and coming back to town, it was, I didn't realize how much I missed our good food in our town because we were all over the country and didn't have any good food. So I think I've frequented all your restaurants since I've been back because I missed everybody's food. And I was so excited to see the Pocket Park next to Loom. So, and I love the air thing.
yes.
Mhm.
That's
Very nice.
so, it's so
Mhm.
cool. Yeah, I liked it. Although I would have liked to seen more pavement instead of just little bitty parking spots.
It'll come
It's great.
eventually.
Yeah.
Working on
water
that.
run. Ms. Art?
Just excited about the new things coming to Cedar Springs. Seeing this town grow. Only been here for a couple of years and I've seen quite a bit happen already, so. I like what I see.
Love the park proposal, and I'm really looking forward to what are they, Gouda bites? Gouda fritters,
Got
I'm
it over there.
straight there after.
He's hungry.
Ms. Powell?
Do we have all the new street signs up now?
Probably 90%.
They look fabulous. I'm really happy about that. And the new city hall sign, like that a lot.
Just noticed that this week. That looks nice.
Yeah. And having talked to Sparta a little bit about their DDA and their Chamber of Commerce are run by the same person. So I don't know if the pay wise or whatever goes on there, but that's pretty helpful. And yes, again, thank you to Loom to making that dirty old nasty old alley look so beautiful, and very happy about that. And we're gonna start planting the community garden right after the 30th. So stand by for that because it's always so beautiful. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Stout. That's it.
Brooks?
As Ms. Conley said, WZZM is doing a series on the city this week, and they actually focus on my business on the bakery today. So if y'all happen to turn into channel 13 during the evening or the night, you'll get to see my lovely wife and me and our service dog. Kind of cool. Just, you know,
Where's your dog?
and well, with my wife. Because, you know, she's not vested yet. As soon as she gets her vest, then she'll be here with me every time. Oh, and by the way, that clock is wrong. It's annoying. The date is wrong on that clock. It's been annoying me for the last 90 minutes. I'm just pointing it out.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Stout, for your work on the pocket park. I know we've been talking about that for a long time and excited to see that come to fruition. I remind everybody that this weekend is the Cedar Blitz. There hasn't been a lot. I don't know how much chatter there has been on that, but that benefits the Cedar Springs Music Boosters. And that is a great event that's bringing a lot of new blood to downtown Cedar Springs. So that'll be Saturday morning, and we have a little mini taste of Cedar Springs. So there'll be a number of local restaurants out in our lot doing some tastings out there. So feel free to stop by and check that out. And that's an event that we really hope is going to continue to grow and be a centerpiece event for our town as we continue to move forward. So
And what time?
the race, I believe, starts at like 8:30. There's several waves between 8:30 and 10. It'll be finishing up between 11 and 2.
The taste
Somewhere in
is
there.
gonna be when?
The taste is 11 to 2, I think is what we had. 11 to 2.
11 to 2, yeah. I mean, I was planning on being there earlier because people
Right.
really liked my stuff before the race, so
Right.
I'm gonna be there when,
So-
when you're there, I'll be there on Saturday.
We'll be there. So, but anyway, otherwise, thank you very much. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor,
I
go home.
Work.
don't want to go.
Mr. President, you control